Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I apply Bare Minerals Mineral Foundation to my dry, textured, acne-prone skin. I'm going to be using the original powder foundation, well-rested concealer, bronzer, and blush. Let's get into how I apply powder foundation for my dry textured skin. I'm going to be using Bare Minerals as my base today. So I'm going to be using the Bare Minerals original, and this is in the color medium beige. So I'm going to start out using this. So I just want to highlight there is something that's very important. The first step is making sure that your skin is prepped and hydrated, especially if you have dry skin like I do. I also have acne around my chin area, and it tends to get very dry and textured when I apply makeup to it, so I always make sure that that's very hydrated before applying any powder foundation. So I'm going to do a whole another video on this, but I'll show you what I use. So I use Roccoco botanicals eruption emulsion, and then I use peptide serum. So this acts as a primer, and then I use sunscreen because I try to use sunscreen every single day. And this is a mineral sunscreen, acne safe, recommended by my esthetician. After I apply the SPF, I wait like 10 to 15 minutes before I apply makeup. But this allows a nice base because it does have silicone in it. So it is a nice base for powder foundation. So the next thing is you want to make sure that you don't use too much powder. So I'll show you how much I used. And I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to just swirl it around in the cap. And then I'm going to buff it into the skin. And this is an important step. You want to make sure you really buff it in there and that you don't use too much powder. If you use too much powder, you're going to get that cakey look. You can always go back in and add more powder. So I always recommend just starting with a little bit of powder, really buffing it in there, really working it in. And after a while, when you buff it in, it turns into like a creamy consistency. So here's the difference between this side and this side. I'm gonna go in with a second coat, especially around my chin area. So the key here is that you're really buffing it in. It does take a little bit more work than like your traditional liquid foundation, but if you put a little bit of effort in, then you can have a flawless finish. So I'm going to do the next side. So I would say it's medium coverage, but it can be built up to pretty high coverage. Because you can still kind of see some of my like acne spots, but they're covered up pretty well for powder. You can see I'm still buffing. It does take a little bit of work, but it feels so light on the skin. And I feel like it gives kind of like a glowy, luminous finish. Okay, so I feel like that's good. So I got the well-rested concealer, and I'm going to use a little bit of this under my eyes. I'm going to use my Real Techniques brush I'm just swirling that around in the cap here, and just going to use a little bit of that, very light-handed, under my eye. And this really does like brighten up the eye area. I feel like it does a really good job. So if you can kind of see the difference, not sure if you can on camera, but this one looks a little bit more bright. It's more evened out, but mostly it's just really bright. Make sure you hydrate your skin before applying any powder, because if you have dry skin, it will cling to any dry patches that you have. There we go. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna just go back in and buff with the brush that I used for the foundation, just to get rid of any lines. Okay, then I'm gonna use the bronzer, and this is in the shade Warmth. Swirl this little brush, this like contoured brush, and then just apply that very lightly here. Then I'm gonna apply it on the sides of my cheeks here. I'm gonna use this big fluffy brush to diffuse that because that looked really crazy. So like the smaller dense brush you can use to get it in areas that you want to define those areas, and then like a big fluffy brush like this can really help diffuse the product. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that. So I'm gonna use a little bit more. So I'm just kind of using the foundation just to, so I'm not using the concealer for to like spot conceal, because the concealer for Well Rested is a little bit lighter. So I'm using the just the foundation with a smaller brush and just pinpointing areas that have scarring. Okay, so now I'm going to use a little bit of blush. I'm going to use the color Hint for blush. And then I'm going to use a different brush. What brush do I want to use? Yeah, this e.l.f. brush for blush. So it gives you like a nice pretty glow. I really love this color. And it's like very luminous as well. So I like that. I feel like the bronzer and the blush together really just give like a sun-kissed, healthy glow to the skin, which is really nice to have in the winter. I'm just kind of diffusing, making sure I don't have any lines. Here is my complexion using the Bare Minerals Original Foundation, the concealer Well Rested, the bronzer in Warmth, and then the blush. Now I'm gonna do my eyebrows and mascara and lips off camera, and I'll be right back for the finished look. So here is the finished look. I did my eyebrows, mascara, and lips off camera. I'll put what I use in the description for those. But overall, If you take away anything from this video, let it be that you prep and hydrate your skin prior to putting powder foundation on, especially if you have dry skin, textured skin, or acne prone skin, because if you don't do that, you could end up looking cakey. It could end up clinging to dry spots. So to achieve a glowy finish, be sure to prep and buff in the foundation using the brush, and just make sure you put in the effort to buff that in really well. I plan to do other videos with different powder foundations, and if you like my videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.